couple of months ago I needed to head up to Devon for the day. First stop would be Eggsford to drop off some Aronka Jap spares, and then on to Bellevue for a couple of flying jobs. It was an ideal opportunity to explore the old aerodromes at Okehampton and Barnstaple, at least from top sides, and see what was left. I picked a suitable day, sunny with a light southerly wind, and headed off, well loaded up with the Aronka parts, spare petrol and lunch. About 45 minutes later I was approaching the old aerodrome at Okehampton. Just to the south lies Dartmoor, 360 square miles of granite tors, treacherous bogs, and if you believe that sort of thing, a black dog that howls in the night. In the 1890s an army camp was built just south of Okehampton and the north side of the moor used as an artillery range. Both are still in use today. In 1928 the War Office opened a landing ground at Folly Gate, on well-drained land to the northwest of Okehampton town. Whilst primarily built for Army cooperation flights, the landing ground was available for civilian traffic. An early visitor was the Prince of Wales, later Edward VIII, in his Gypsy Moth in the summer of 1930. Sir Alan Cobham's National Aviation Day displays used the site several times, but not to universal acclaim. The landing ground was well used throughout the 1930s, and by 1939 had been enlarged, giving a run of about 700 yards in most directions. The Air Ministry considered turning the landing ground into a proper aerodrome, but probably didn't because the land is the crown of a hill and distinctly dome-shaped. However, the landing ground was used intensively throughout the Second World War, and a camp for the Women's Auxiliary Air Force, who ran the landing ground, was built on the road to the north. The green field under the flying wires, now divided into three by wire fences, is the landing ground. To the east lies Abbeyford Wood. Huts were constructed under the trees and the whole site used as an ammunition dump and store for aircraft spares. After the war the landing ground was little used, although it didn't formally close until 1960. A monument to the landing ground and the personnel who served there stands in Folligate village, outside one of the old Second World War buildings that is now used as the village hall. As I buzzed along northeast towards Eggsford, I passed the village of North Taunton. Unremarkable in itself, but in the 1960s a fabulous 10¼ inch gauge railway ran from the outskirts of the village and around several fields. Built by the Densham family, some of the locomotives and rolling stock originated on the Surrey Border and Camberley Railway. Soon I arrived over Eggsford. Lazy zephyrs blew the windsock here and there, so I decided to land to the west. Cup of tea and a pasty later, and with Jap spares delivered, it was time to head to Bellevue. The Tor Valley looked very pretty from the air, the railway, river and road all weaving their way towards the sea. With the southerly breeze, it wasn't long before I was approaching the old aerodrome, just northwest of Barnstaple town. Barnstaple Aerodrome opened in 1933. It was established by Robert Boyd, who'd learnt to fly at Croydon the previous year. The land was leased from Heenton Court Farm and had been used before the First World War by Monsieur Salmet, his Blériot and his outrageous moustache. By late 1934, a clubhouse and 2 hangars had been built at the north end of the site, and with 2 gypsy moths, the North Devon Flying Club came into being. Robert Boyd also formed another company, Lundy and Atlantic Coast Airlines, which started operations between Barnstaple and Lundy Island in the summer of 1934. Initial flights to Lundy were made with a Dragon, but the Dragon was badly damaged when it hit a dry stone wall on landing. It was replaced with a monospar, which gave excellent service, and later on 2 short Scions. In late 1938, the Air Ministry proposed building a new aerodrome at Chivenor, about half a mile west of the existing aerodrome. Construction started in 1940, and by the end of that year, all flying from the old aerodrome site had ended. In the 1980s, when these photographs were taken, most of the old aerodrome buildings survived in industrial use. They're still there now, although the Royal Air Force built married quarters on the aerodrome site itself. RAF Chivenor closed in the early 1990s, although the site still belongs to the Ministry of Defence. The original aerodrome buildings are behind the flying wires now, with the aerodrome site itself to the left and the now disused railway line to Ilfracombe on the right. Lundy Island, 11 miles northwest of Hartland Point, is a gem of an island and deserves a film of its own. I headed south to Bellevue, which is easily found because there's a television transmitter mast just to the north of the aerodrome. Flying jobs done, it was time to head home. It was one of those wonderful days where there was no reason to ever look at a map. I'd followed the A30 on the way up, across the middle of Bodmin Moor. I could see the moor now as I headed southwest, and I aimed for the right-hand side to go around the north, past Davidstow. I passed the old aerodrome at Davidstow Moor. Several paramotor chutes were being laid out on the grass, ready for flight. By now I could see the high ground and clay tips to the north of St Austell, affectionately known locally as the Cornish Alps. Aiming for them would take me straight back to Roach. Exactly 1 hour after leaving Bellevue, I was overhead the airstrip. What a splendid day. Thanks for watching.